The day Earth changed forever started like any other at the Global Defense Center. Tom Richards sat at his desk, surrounded by ancient military texts and artifacts, not knowing that his expertise in military history would soon become crucial to humanity's future. The first signs came as a series of unusual signals detected by radio telescopes worldwide. Then, without warning, massive ships appeared in Earth's orbit. They were smooth, gleaming vessels that dwarfed anything humans had ever built. The world held its breath, waiting for either salvation or destruction. "We come in peace," the message echoed across every communication device on Earth. "We are the Galactic Council, and we have been searching for you for a very long time." Tom watched the news unfold on the screens around him, his coffee growing cold and forgotten. As the alien ships hovered silently above major cities, world leaders scrambled to organize a response. Within hours, he received an urgent call from his superior. "Richards, pack your bags. They're asking for historians," and your name came up. 24 hours later, Tom found himself in a heavily guarded conference room at the United Nations headquarters. Representatives from the Galactic Council sat across the table, tall, elegant beings with silvery skin and eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. They'd brought with them a collection of artifacts that defied explanation. "These belong to your people," one of the aliens said, placing a metallic sphere on the table, "though you have forgotten their purpose." Tom approached the sphere cautiously. It was covered in markings that reminded him of ancient Earth languages, yet different from anything he'd studied. As his fingers touched the cool surface, something extraordinary happened. The sphere began to glow with a soft blue light, patterns of energy swirling beneath its surface. The aliens stepped back, their composed demeanor cracking for the first time. "It's true," they whispered among themselves. "They really are the sleepers." "What do you mean?" Tom asked, still transfixed by the glowing object. The lead alien, who called himself the first speaker, stepped forward. "Your people, humans, are not what you believe yourselves to be. You are the descendants of beings we once called the war gods. They were the most powerful species our galaxy has ever known." Tom listened as the first speaker revealed a history that seemed impossible. According to their records, humans were once beings of incredible power who could shape reality itself. But something happened. A choice was made, and they decided to seal away their powers, choosing to live as mortals. "But why?" Tom asked, his historian's mind racing with questions. "That knowledge was lost to time," the first speaker replied. "What we do know is that you, created devices like this one to preserve your legacy. These artifacts have remained dormant for millennia, waiting for the touch of those who carry the blood of the war gods." As word spread about the artifact's reaction to human touch, more items were brought forward from the alien ships. Each one responded differently. Some glowed, others projected strange images, and a few emitted harmonious sounds that seemed to stir something deep in the human mind. The world changed rapidly over the next few days. Social media exploded with theories and speculation. Religious leaders debated the implications. Scientists worked around the clock to study the artifacts. But it was Tom who made the next significant discovery. Late one night, while examining texts provided by the Galactic Council, he found references to something called the Awakening. According to the ancient writings, the dormant power within humanity wasn't meant to sleep forever. It was waiting for the right moment, or perhaps the right threat, to reawaken. As Tom prepared his report on this finding, alerts blared across the Global Defense Center. Unknown ships had appeared at the edge of the solar system, their intentions clearly hostile. The Galactic Council representatives grew pale at the sight of them. "The swarm," they said, their voices filled with dread. "They must have followed us here." Tom looked down at the glowing artifacts, then back at the approaching threat on the screens. Somehow he knew this was just the beginning. Humanity's long sleep was about to end, and the galaxy would never be the same. The swarm struck without mercy. Their black ships descended upon Mars Colony 1, where 5,000 human settlers had made their home. Tom watched in horror from the emergency command center on Earth as the colony's defenses crumbled under the assault. "We need to evacuate them," he said, clutching one of the ancient artifacts they'd been studying. In the 3 weeks since first contact with the Galactic Council, he'd been appointed as Earth's lead researcher on humanity's forgotten history. The artifact in his hand, a small pyramid-shaped device, had grown warmer over the past hour, pulsing with a faint red light that matched his racing heartbeat. The first speaker of the Galactic Council had warned them not to activate any of the devices until they understood them better, but time had run out. "The evacuation ships won't reach Mars in time," said General Mike Adams, his face grim as he watched the tactical display. "The colonists are trapped." Tom made his decision. Against all protocols, he pressed his palm firmly against the artifact's surface and focused his thoughts on the people who needed help. The device grew hot, then searing, but he didn't let go. A beam of red light shot from the pyramid, striking the main view screen. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, to everyone's amazement, the image showed a massive energy shield forming around the Mars colony, deflecting the swarm's weapons. But something else was happening too. Tom felt power surge through his body, ancient memories flooding his mind. He saw battles fought among the stars, felt the knowledge of 1,000 wars, and understood weapons that could shatter planets. He wasn't alone. All across Earth and its colonies, humans began experiencing similar awakenings. The dormant power in their genes, hidden for countless generations, had begun to stir. At the Mars colony, Dr. Lisa Reed was helping evacuate civilians when the change hit her. Her eyes began to glow with golden light, and suddenly she could see paths of probability, every possible outcome of the battle playing out in her mind. Without thinking, she began directing colonists and security teams, her tactical predictions proving eerily accurate. "This way," she shouted, leading a group to safety mere moments before a swarm blast destroyed their previous position. The awakening is spreading. Back on Earth, Tom struggled to control the flood of power coursing through him. The ancient knowledge was overwhelming, threatening to drown his human consciousness. He heard the first speaker's voice, filled with awe and fear. "It's happening faster than the legends predicted," the alien said. "Your kind are remembering who you once were." Reports poured in from around the globe. A farmer in Kansas lifted a tractor with his bare hands to save his trapped child. A teacher in Japan found she could read the thoughts of others. A doctor in Brazil discovered he could heal with a touch. But not all changes were peaceful. Some humans, overwhelmed by their awakening powers, lost control. Buildings were damaged, accidents occurred, and fear began to spread alongside wonder. Tom forced himself to focus through the chaos in his mind. "We need to help people control this," he managed to say. "The power, it's too much to handle alone." The Galactic Council representatives huddled together, discussing rapidly in their own language. Finally, the first speaker turned to Tom. "We will help guide you through this transition," he said. "But understand, this is only the beginning. The swarm attacked because they fear what humanity might become. They know that awakened war gods would be unstoppable." Looking at the tactical displays, Tom saw the truth of those words. The Mars colony defenders were pushing back the swarm ships, their newfound abilities growing stronger by the minute. Dr. Reed had organized an effective resistance, her tactical predictions allowing the colonists to stay one step ahead of their attackers. As the power continued to surge through him, Tom realized humanity stood at a crossroads. They were becoming something more than human, yet they needed to remember their humanity more than ever. "Gather everyone who's awakened," he ordered. "We need to start training immediately, because if this is just the beginning, I fear what's coming next." The first speaker nodded gravely. "The swarm will return, and next time, they will bring their full force. You have awakened into a war that has waited millennia to resume." 1 month after the Mars colony attack, an old military base in Nevada had become humanity's first training ground for awakened powers. The desert air shimmered with energy as hundreds of newly awakened humans learned to control their abilities. Tom stood at the observation deck, watching the training sessions below. Dr. Lisa Reed, now back from Mars, was teaching a group how to harness their tactical foresight. In another area, General Adams worked with those who had developed enhanced strength and speed. "You're pushing them too hard," said Anna White, a former Olympic athlete who had shown exceptional control over her awakened abilities. She walked up beside Tom, her eyes glowing with a subtle blue light that marked all those who had awakened. "We don't have a choice," Tom replied, his own eyes carrying the same glow. "The swarm won't wait for us to be ready." Below them, a young man lost control of his energy manipulation powers, sending a blast of force that shattered several training dummies. Anna quickly raised her hand, creating a containment field that absorbed the excess energy. "That's exactly my point," she said. "Raw power isn't enough. We need balance." Tom knew she was right. Over the past weeks, they had seen both miracles and disasters. For every person who mastered their abilities, another lost control. Some had to be kept in special containment areas until they could handle their powers. The first speaker appeared beside them, moving with the silent grace typical of his species. "Your people learn quickly," he observed, "but there is something you should see." He led them to a secure room where dozens of screens showed news from around the world. People were changing in ways they hadn't expected. Children were being born with their eyes already glowing. Elderly people reported ancient memories surfacing in their dreams. "The awakening is affecting everyone differently," Tom said, studying the reports. "We need to understand why." Just then, alarms blared throughout the base. On one of the screens, they saw a situation unfolding in a small town in Oregon. A teenage girl had awakened suddenly, her powers manifesting as uncontrolled gravity manipulation. The entire town was being affected. "I'll handle this," Anna said, heading for the door. "Tom, remember what we discussed about teaching control first, power second." As Anna left for Oregon, Tom turned his attention back to the training grounds. He remembered his own struggle to control the flood of ancient memories and power. Every awakened human faced the same challenge, balancing their new godlike abilities with their human consciousness. "Watch," the first speaker said, pointing to a group of newcomers. These were people who had awakened just days ago. Unlike the earlier groups, they seemed to be adapting more quickly. A young man was already creating complex energy structures, while the woman nearby had mastered the basics of molecular manipulation in hours rather than weeks. "They're learning from each other," Tom realized. "The knowledge is spreading somehow, being shared between awakened minds." The first speaker nodded. "Your species is remembering not just individual powers, but the collective knowledge of your ancestors. This is why the swarm fears you." A massive holographic display activated in the center of the training ground, a new feature installed by the Galactic Council. It showed their solar system and the space beyond. Red dots marked suspected swarm positions, growing in number each day. "How long do we have?" Tom asked. 2 months, perhaps 3, the first speaker replied. "They are gathering their full fleet." Tom watched as another training session began below. This time, the instructors were teaching people how to link their powers together, creating effects far greater than what they could achieve alone. It was dangerous work. One wrong move could be catastrophic, but it was necessary. His communicator buzzed with an update from Anna. The situation in Oregon was under control. The teenage girl was being brought to the base, along with several others who had awakened in the same area. "We're running out of space here," Tom said, looking at the crowded facility. Then perhaps, the first speaker suggested, "It's time to expand your training to the stars. After all, that is where the real battle will be fought." Tom nodded, feeling the weight of ancient memories stirring in his mind. The war gods hadn't just been powerful, they had been teachers, guardians, and warriors. Now humanity needed to become all of these things again, and quickly. "Send word to the other bases," he ordered. "It's time to start the advanced training. We're taking this to space." The bridge of the starship Aurora hummed with energy as Tom and his team prepared for humanity's first major offensive against the swarm. Through the massive viewport, he could see Earth's first combat fleet, 20 ships crewed by awakened humans, built using recovered ancient technology. The swarm has taken 3 more mining outposts in the asteroid belt. Anna reported, her tactical vision showing her multiple possible battle outcomes. They're using them to build more ships. "Then that's where we strike first," Tom said. His eyes glowed brightly as he connected with the ship's systems, another recovered ability that made the war gods legendary space fighters. The fleet moved out, their engines leaving trails of blue fire against the black of space. Each ship carried a crew of 50, all of them now trained in their awakened powers. The past month of space training had transformed them from scared humans into confident warriors. "Enemy ships detected," the ship's AI announced. 300 swarm vessels approaching from the belt. Tom felt a familiar surge of power as his combat memories activated. He saw battles fought thousands of years ago, strategies used by the ancient war gods. But he also remembered Anna's training. Power had to be controlled, focused. "Battle Formation Delta," he ordered. "Remember your training. We're not just fighting with power, we're fighting with skill." The human fleet spread out, taking positions that seemed random to normal eyes. But Anna's tactical vision showed the perfect pattern, a formation that would maximize their abilities while protecting their weaknesses. The swarm struck first, launching waves of energy weapons. But they weren't ready for what humanity had become. The crew members joined their powers together, creating massive shield networks between ships. Every blast from the swarm was absorbed or deflected. "Now," Tom commanded. The human fleet responded as one. Crews channeled their powers through their ship's weapons, transforming standard energy beams into devastating forces. The first wave of swarm ships broke apart under the assault. But the swarm was adaptable. They changed formation, trying to surround the human fleet. That's when Anna's tactical predictions proved their worth. "They're trying to split us up," she warned. "Port side, 30 degrees up. That's their real attack vector." Tom saw it too. A massive swarm ship, bigger than the others, moving into position. "All ships, concentrate fire on that vessel. It's their command center." The space around them lit up with energy as both sides unleashed their full power. The human crews worked in perfect sync, their awakened abilities amplifying their ship's capabilities far beyond their design specs. Suddenly, one of the swarm ships broke through their formation, heading straight for the Aurora. But Tom was ready. He reached out with his mind, connecting with the ancient technology hidden within his ship's core. The Aurora's hull began to glow with symbols identical to those found on the artifacts that had started all this. Power surged through the ship, and a beam of pure white energy shot forth, cutting the swarm vessel in half. "We found something," called one of the crew members monitoring the mining outposts. The swarm. They were digging for something in the asteroids. More artifacts. Tom felt a pull toward the nearest outpost. "Cover us," he ordered the rest of the fleet. "We need to secure those artifacts before the swarm destroys them." The Aurora broke away from the main battle, protected by covering fire from the other ships. As they approached the outpost, Tom could feel the ancient power resonating from within the asteroid. "Be careful," Anna warned. "My visions are showing multiple possible traps." They docked with the outpost, and Tom led a small team inside. What they found made them stop in awe. The walls were covered with the same symbols they'd seen on the first artifacts, but these told a story, the reason the war gods had chosen to sleep. "They're coming back." Anna's voice crackled over the comm. Massive swarm reinforcements just jumped in. Tom looked at the ancient writings, then at his team. They all knew what had to be done. "Get these artifacts secured," he ordered. "If the swarm wants them this badly, then we need them more." As they rushed to secure their discovery, Tom felt the battle turning. This wasn't just humanity's first real strike against the swarm. It was the beginning of something bigger. The war gods hadn't just left behind their power, they'd left a message. And now, finally, humanity was ready to read it. In a secure room deep beneath the Nevada training facility, Tom stared at the holographic translations of the artifacts they'd recovered from the asteroid base. After 3 days of non-stop work, the terrible truth was becoming clear. "We were too powerful," he whispered, reading the ancient messages. "That's why they chose to sleep." Anna stood beside him, her tactical vision showing her hundreds of possible futures based on what they were learning. None of them looked good. The room was filled with projected images showing the history of the war gods, their rise, their battles, and their final choice. "Look at this," she said, pointing to one particular sequence. It showed a war god battle from the ancient times. A single warrior had accidentally torn a hole in space-time, nearly destroying an entire solar system. The first speaker entered the room, his silver skin reflecting the holographic lights. "Now you understand why the swarm fears you so much. Your ancestors didn't just fight wars. They could break reality itself." More images played around them. The war gods had been unstoppable, their powers growing with each generation. But with that power came devastating accidents. Entire galaxies were put at risk by their battles. "There's more," Tom said, activating another recording. "The superweapon, the one that made them choose to sleep." The hologram showed a massive device, built by the most powerful war gods. It was meant to be the ultimate defense, a weapon that could end any conflict. But its power was too great. One test, Anna read from the translation. They only tested it once, and it nearly unraveled the fabric of the universe. The room fell silent as they watched the test recording. A small demonstration of the weapon had created a cascade effect that threatened to destroy everything. The war gods had barely managed to contain it. "That's when they made their choice," the first speaker said. "Rather than risk destroying everything, they chose to seal their powers and live as normal beings. They became human." But the revelations didn't stop there. Tom found another sequence of recordings, these showing the creation of the artifacts. "They didn't just seal their powers," he said. "They hid them in these devices, scattered them across the galaxy. They knew someday their descendants might need them. And now the swarm wants us to activate the superweapon," Anna added. "They've been attacking us, pushing us, hoping we'll find it and use it. But why?" The answer came from another artifact, this one showing a swarm leader from ancient times. The translation was clear. The swarm believed that reality itself needed to be reset, remade in their image. They wanted humanity to find and activate the superweapon, believing it would give them that chance. "We've already seen what's happening," Tom said, gesturing to reports from around Earth. "Some of our people want to embrace full power, to become like the ancient war gods. They don't understand the danger." The reports showed concerning incidents. A group of awakened humans had tried to take control of a military base. Another had attempted to force their way into artifact storage facilities. The power was tempting, calling to something deep in their blood. "Your people face a choice," the first speaker said. "The same choice your ancestors faced. Will you embrace the full power of the war gods, knowing it could destroy everything? Or will you find another way?" Anna's tactical vision suddenly flared. "The swarm," she called out. "They're launching a full-scale attack on Earth. They're not waiting anymore." The room erupted with alarms. On the main screen, they could see thousands of swarm ships appearing from hyperspace. This wasn't just another raid. This was an invasion. "They think they can force our hand," Tom said, understanding flowing through his awakened memories. "Make us so desperate that we'll search for the superweapon." He looked at the ancient recordings one last time, seeing the faces of those war gods who chose to give up their power to save reality itself. They had left a warning, but also a hope, a belief that their descendants would make the right choice when the time came. "Inform all commands," he ordered. "Everyone needs to know the truth, because this isn't just about winning a war anymore. It's about saving everything that exists. Earth's skies burned red as thousands of swarm ships descended through the atmosphere. The planet's defenses, though strengthened by awakened humans, were struggling against the sheer number of enemies. Tom stood in the Global Command Center, watching multiple battles unfold across the world. His fellow humans fought with everything they had, their awakened powers pushing back against the swarm's advanced technology. "We're losing ground in Asia," Anna reported, her tactical vision showing waves of defeat spreading across the continent. "Europe is holding, but barely. Africa has gone dark." The pressure was building in Tom's mind. He could feel the full power of his war god heritage trying to break free. All around him, other awakened humans were experiencing the same thing. The ancient power wanted to be unleashed, to fight at full strength. "Sir," a young operator called out, "we're detecting a signal from the moon. It's like the artifacts, but much stronger." Tom's heart sank. He knew what it meant. They found it. The swarm found the superweapon. The first speaker, who had remained on Earth despite the danger, stepped forward. "You must make your choice now," he said. "The weapon can only be activated by war god power. The swarm cannot use it themselves." On the screens, they watched as more swarm ships entered Earth's atmosphere. Cities burned, defenses crumbled, and people died. The temptation to unleash their full power grew stronger with each passing moment. "There has to be another way," Anna said, her eyes scanning possible futures. But most paths led to destruction, either from the swarm or from humanity's own uncontrolled power. Then something unexpected happened. One of the ancient artifacts they had recovered began to glow with a new message. Tom rushed to read it, hope flaring in his chest. "Look at this," he called to the others. "The war gods didn't just leave us warnings. They left us a third option." The message showed a different kind of power, not the raw force that could break reality, but something more controlled. The war gods had discovered it just before they chose to sleep, a way to use their abilities without risking everything. "They found balance," Tom said, understanding flowing through him. "Not gods, not humans, but something in between." Anna's tactical vision suddenly shifted, showing new possibilities. "Yes," she said, excitement in her voice. "If we can link all awakened humans together, share this knowledge." But they needed time. The swarm was pressing their advantage, trying to force humanity to either surrender or use the superweapon. Either way, the swarm would win. Tom made his decision. "All commands, fall back to the secondary lines," he ordered. "Anna, I need you to coordinate our remaining ships. First speaker, can your people help evacuate civilians?" "What are you planning?" Anna asked, though her tactical vision was already showing her the answer. "I'm going to the moon," Tom said, "not to activate the weapon, but to protect it. The rest of you need to prepare for what comes next." The command center erupted into activity. Tom's plan was risky, but it was their best chance. As he prepared to leave, he shared a look with Anna. They both knew what was at stake. "Remember," the first speaker said, "your ancestors chose sleep over destruction. They believed in humanity's ability to find a better way." Tom nodded, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. He reached out with his power, connecting with other awakened humans around the world. In their minds, he shared the truth they had learned and the choice they faced. "We are not gods," he broadcast to them all. "And we are not merely human. We are both, and we must learn to be both." As he boarded a ship bound for the moon, Tom could feel the response from others like him. They understood. The power within them began to change, shifting from raw force into something more controlled, more purposeful. The real battle was about to begin, not just for survival, but for the very nature of what humanity would become. The battle for Earth reached its climax on the lunar surface. Tom stood before the ancient superweapon, his awakened powers glowing not with the fierce red of war, but with a steady blue light of controlled strength. Behind him, swarm forces pressed against the defensive line he had created. "You cannot resist forever. The swarm commander's voice boomed across the lunar surface. "Activate the weapon. Prove you are truly war gods." But Tom remembered the ancient truth, the wisdom of his ancestors. He reached out with his mind, connecting to the network of awakened humans across Earth and space. Through their linked consciousness, he shared what he had learned. "We choose a different path," he broadcast, his voice reaching every human and swarm fighter in the solar system. "Not the path of gods, not the path of mortals, but the path between." Anna, coordinating Earth's defenses from orbit, felt the change first. The tactical possibilities in her vision shifted, showing a new future. Through their connected minds, she shared what she saw with everyone. The first speaker watched from the command center as awakened humans worldwide began to change. Their powers, once wild and dangerous, transformed into something new. The fierce glow in their eyes softened to a steady, controlled light. "Look!" someone shouted, pointing to the main display. The human defenders were no longer fighting with raw power. Instead, they moved with precision and purpose. Their abilities, once capable of tearing reality apart, now worked in harmony with it. Ships that had been damaged began to repair themselves. Destroyed cities started to rebuild, the very molecules of matter responding to controlled commands. The swarm pressed their attack on the moon, determined to force humanity's hand. But Tom stood firm, protecting the superweapon not with destructive force, but with an impenetrable field of controlled energy that worked with the fabric of space itself. "You don't understand," Tom told the swarm commander. "Our ancestors didn't seal their powers because they were afraid. They did it because they saw a better way." Through the network of awakened minds, Tom shared the final message from the war gods. It wasn't a warning about power, but a hope for evolution. They had seen the possibility of beings who could wield godlike abilities while maintaining their connection to life, to emotion, to the very thing that made them human. The swarm's attack faltered as they witnessed the transformation. Where they had expected to find either weak humans or reality-breaking gods, they found something entirely new. Humanity had become living bridges between the mortal and divine. Anna's voice rang through the network. "All forces, execute pattern unity." Across Earth and space, humanity's defenders moved as one. Their powers, now controlled and precise, created a web of energy that surrounded the swarm fleet. But instead of destroying them, it simply held them in place. "We offer you peace," Tom broadcasted to the swarm, "not through weakness or overwhelming force, but through balance." The first speaker stepped forward in the command center, his silver eyes wide with wonder. "They've done it," he whispered. "They've become what the war gods always meant to be." The swarm commander, seeing his forces contained but unharmed, finally understood. This new humanity would neither submit nor destroy. They had found a third path, becoming protectors rather than destroyers. Hours later, as the swarm fleet retreated under terms of truce, Tom stood with Anna watching Earth rise over the lunar horizon. The superweapon, its purpose now understood, would be dismantled. Its power wasn't meant to destroy reality, but to show them how to live within it. "What now?" Anna asked, her tactical vision showing countless positive futures spreading out before them. "Now we learn," Tom replied. "We teach, we protect." He looked back at Earth, seeing the lights of cities being rebuilt, feeling the network of awakened minds working in harmony. "We become who we were always meant to be." The first speaker joined them, bringing news that the Galactic Council had already received requests from other races seeking to learn this new way. Humanity, once feared as sleeping gods of war, would become teachers of balance. As the sun rose over Earth's horizon, painting the lunar surface in golden light, Tom felt the truth of what they had become. Not gods, not merely human, but guardians of life itself, protectors of the delicate balance between power and wisdom. The age of the war gods was truly over. The age of the guardians had begun.